Do you ever feel like you don't have enough time to write? Don't worry, it happens to all of us. Even I fail at time management, but I've picked up some secrets over the years that I'd like to share with you. So in this video, we're going to talk about time management basics. What's up, guys? Michael Laron from Author Level Up here, helping you write world-class stories better and faster. And I create these writing videos because I believe that each of you has Stephen King level talent and you just need help unlocking it. So if you're new here, consider subscribing and click that little bell, ding, 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 to get notifications every time I have a writing video. And this is the kickoff video in my new season on Author Level Up, which I'm calling Organization. So how to organize every area of your writing life. And in this video, we're talking about time management strategies. Now, we're going to go back to basics here because I found that time management is something that evolves over time. What works today might not work tomorrow. And so you just have to continuously adapt to get there. So why am I qualified to talk about this topic, right? So as I record this video, I am running a YouTube channel which has daily or weekly videos. I have daily videos going on my social media platform. I have daily blog posts that go on my blog. I have two podcasts, actually three podcasts that I host on a regular basis. Writing Tip of the Day, which is Monday through Friday. I have the Writer's Journey podcast, which is every Thursday. And then I have another podcast that I do for the Alliance of Independent Authors that is once a month. In addition to that, I work a full-time job in corporate America, 40 hours a week. I also am raising a family. I have a 4-year-old daughter, so that's pretty much all you need to know about that. And I am also, as we speak, in law school. So I'm taking law school classes. And if that were not enough, I am also teaching some insurance classes on the side as a way to help improve my public speaking skills. So if I can master time management, and in addition to all, how can I forget the books? I still write books on a regular basis too. That's why I had this channel. So if I can do all of that, then I think I figured out some things from time management perspective. So that's why I'm qualified to talk about this topic. So each of you watching this fall into one of two camps, right? The first camp are the people that just don't have enough time, and it just always feels like a struggle. And no matter what you do, you always feel like you're behind the curve. And then the second camp are the people that have enough time, but perhaps you stretch yourself too thin and you take on too many things. And so then your biggest problem is the fact that you're stretched too thin. I happen to fall into that second camp. So my first tip for you is consistency. I've talked about this a lot on my podcast, but consistency was something that I failed at in the very beginning of my career. I started a blog. I stopped doing it after 3 months. I started a walking podcast, and I stopped it after 3 months. I started Author Level Up, and then I had to take a hiatus for a year. All of these things, if I had kept up at them, I would have had more momentum and more consistency, but I failed in that area. So my first tip is consistency. Whatever you decide to do, figure out what your normal is, what's your baseline, and then learn how to be consistent. So I want you to think about how you're going to manage your time so that you can be consistent. Does that mean scheduling some time every week to write? Does it mean scheduling some time every week to reflect on how you're going to make time for your writing? I don't know what that looks like for you, right? But if you can focus on consistency, whether that be with social media, whether that be on a normal output of books every year, whether that be doing videos kind of like I do, just be consistent. So let me give you a question to ask yourself to make this a little bit easier. I want you to ask yourself, how can I juggle the things that are going on in my life so that I can write X amount of books per year, right? How can I juggle the things that are going on in my life so that I can write X amount of books per year? When you think about that, it allows you to be flexible because then it's not about the minutes, right? Don't get caught up in the minutes. It's about the task, right? And when you think about the task, that allows you to be more flexible because then it's not so much about doing the same thing every day. It's about how can you mix things around so that you can accomplish the tasks that you need to accomplish. So my second tip for you, it sounds a little strange, but it's learning how or when to say yes and when to say no. So I think if you look at any time management strategies and advice, it's always going to say learn how to say no, right? Because people just say yes to everything. But I think you need to learn equally how to say yes and no. So let me give you two examples that illustrate this. So when I became a writer, I basically stopped doing a lot of things. I stopped watching movies for the most part. I stopped writing music, which is something that was a passion of mine. I stopped playing video games, which is something that was a passion of mine. And I pretty much cut everything out of my life so that I could focus on writing. And that's made a huge difference in my life, right? Because it's cleared up a lot of time. It's cleared up my focus so I can focus strictly on one thing or one set of things. And that's made a difference. And that's a great example of learning how to say no to certain things, right? So if something comes along where someone wants me to write music for them or get involved in something that's not writing, chances are I'm probably going to say no, right? Now, on the flip side of this, learning how to say yes can also be a pretty important thing. So, for example, going to law school, right? So it's kind of crazy that I would decide to go to law school when I have a writing career and when I had this YouTube channel, and podcasts and all that. But I made that decision because I knew that there were some things that I need to learn as I start to scale my business. And having the knowledge of contracts and intellectual property and licensing and employment law, all these things are very important for me to learn. And so I knew that it would be a short-term sacrifice in the terms of things are going to be kind of hectic for me for about 3 to 4 years. But once that 3 to 4 years passes, things are going to drop off, right? I'll get that time back and I'll actually have some skills to show for it and some things that can actually help me get to the next level. So it's almost like an anti-tip, right? Like I said yes to something that's going to suck up my time in the beginning, but it's going to actually make me more efficient long term. A lot of people don't think about that. So let me frame this in another way. When you are presented with an opportunity, is it an opportunity or is it a distraction disguised as an opportunity, right? So what I want you to think about is this something, this opportunity or this decision that you have to make that's going to take up your time, is this going to help you become a better writer in the short or the long term? If the answer is yes, then I want you to consider it. If the answer is no, then be ruthless and be unapologetic and learn how to say no. Tip number 3 is to avoid burnout. Now, let's have a serious conversation about this because this is something that I think we need to be talking about more in our writing community, and I know that it affects a large percentage of you. And if it doesn't yet, it will affect a large percentage of you at some point in your career. Now, burnout is real, right? And when I talked about the two falling into two different camps, you either never have enough time and you're always chasing the curve, or you have too much time, or you have enough time but you waste it because you say yes to too many things. The second camp is more susceptible to this, right? So it's very easy in the writing life to stretch yourself too thin because if you think about it, there are a lot of things that you have to learn how to do. It's not just writing. You've got to learn how to market. You've got to network with people. You have to go to conferences. You have to learn and study the craft. You have to update your website. I mean, there are so many different things that you have to do as a writer, and it is very easy to stretch yourself thin and burn out. And it's very important that you don't do that. I don't want any of you to burn out because it's not fun. It's not fun. And here's another thing that is really important to know. And I can say this authoritatively because it happened to me, and it's happened to me several times throughout my career, is that you don't know that you're stretched too thin until you realize that you're stretched too thin. So let me offer myself up as a cautionary tale. So recently I was at a speaking event, and I was presented with an opportunity to do something that, quite frankly, would have taken my career to the next level, right? And I was a little overcommitted, and I kind of knew it at the time, but I said, I'll make it work. I'll make it happen. And I had a deadline to hit, and I just completely missed the deadline and kind of blew the opportunity, right? And that's so uncharacteristic of me. I'm usually very punctual. You usually never have problems with me when you enlist me on a project. And the opportunity went away, and I had to pull out. I just had to say, no, I just can't do it. And I started to think to myself, how did it get this bad, right? And it was just that I didn't realize it, right? It's kind of like boiling a frog. It just everything's fine, and the next minute you explode. And so I had to pull back on a lot of different things and just kind of step back and say, okay, I hit my limit. I know that I can't go past this capacity in the future. And so it just goes to show you that, I'm not perfect either with time management, and you're going to screw it up. Honestly, there's going to be times when you stumble, right? But if you keep that consistency as your North Star, it's not really going to matter a whole lot what you do. Just pick yourself back up and keep going. And here's another thing that I want you to learn. I could have spent this video talking about, let's do time audits. Let's block some things on your calendar, but you can find that stuff on YouTube readily available. And I've done videos on types, the super basics in the past. I'm trying to offer you some tips that I think are from personal experience, right? And another tip that I want to offer you is that as your career changes and adapts, you're not ever going to solve the time management problem. It's all about flexibility, right? You're never going to solve the problem. As your career evolves, the problem is just going to continue evolving, right? As you become more successful, the problem is just going to keep getting bigger. And you just have to learn how to adapt and keep being flexible. And that's why consistency is so important, because it helps you focus on being consistent. And as long as you focus on the work itself, you'll avoid burnout for the most part, right? Because burnout is real, guys. I don't want any of you to burn out. And I recognize that personally, I am at a higher risk of burnout than most people, just because of the sheer amount of things that I do on a daily basis. And so one of the things that I've been very intentional about and been very thoughtful about is, how do I do the things that I do without burning out? So be sure to check out the rest of the videos coming up in future weeks in my organization season. I'm going to talk about a lot of different aspects of organizing every area of your writing life. So stay tuned for those. And if you're new here, consider subscribing and click that little bell. Talk to you guys in the next video.